Hello, Scott Weaver from Factory Direct Designers Workroom. So today we're going to go over how to make a rod pocket swag. Rod pocket swags are a very easy valance to make, and you can also make the jabos, which I will be showing you that also, so keep your eye out for the jabo video as well. And with this rod pocket swag, you have the option of putting it all on one rod. This is a standard rod. You can also use a continental rod, which is a little wider, but you can also put it on a pole if you would rather put them on a pole. You can get like yourself a 1 inch or 1 3/8 pole, and you can also put it on that. Now, if you're going to be putting on a pole, you want your pocket size to be double what your pole size is. If, for instance, this is an 1.5 inch pole, so I'm going to use a 3-inch pocket. And if it was a 1 inch pole, I'd be putting a 2-inch pocket on it. On a standard rod such as this, you're going to put a 1.5 inch pocket in. So covering that basis, now you have many options with this. Like I say, you can just, if you wanted to, you could use a very small rod like this. This has a 2-inch return, and you can just put a swag on it, or you can put a swag and a pair of rod pocket jabos on it if you like. And then for another option, you can go with the wider rod, such as this. When I mean wider, the return is much wider. And with this, you could put a swag on this, and then put your jabos on this one, and you can put them in. You see how these are made, that one can fit inside the other, just like that. So in other words, on your very first one, you would have your rod pocket jabos that would hang down, and then put your swag over there for the appearance of a layered look. You can also make several rod pocket swags, expand this out, and make as far as you need to. You can put 2 swags on this. Now on this one, you can put 1 swag that would be in the middle and your jabos. Just to give you some options on how to go about, so if you had just more than 1 rod pocket swag. With that being said, we are going to be making roughly about a 40-inch wide by 16-inch drop swag. That's what we're going to be working on today. And what I've cut here is a piece that is 1 yard long, 36 inches, by the full width. And the width of this is actually about 53 inches. I wish it was 54 or 55, but it's not. So we just got to deal with the 53 inch. Now, to make the pattern, it's super simple. After you cut your material, you're just going to fold it in half. And you can do some experimenting. Like, I know this is going to come out pretty close to my size, but if you really want it, you're really to be exact, you're probably going to take a piece of fabric or whatever and make up one to check it before you actually cut your fabric. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a black magic marker, and I'm going to make an oval shape out of this using the whole piece of material. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start drawing a line, and it's going to be kind of like just an oval. And I'm going to come up here very close to my top. And I'm just going to connect the dots here. Now, if I really wanted to get this accurately, the first time, I could actually take, I've shown this in previous videos, is a string or a beaded chain and put it across here to make sure. But I know I'm going to be pretty close, and that's what it's going to look like. Believe it or not, that's all you need to do to make a rod pocket swag. Now the size, let's talk about the size. If I need this wider, I would just seam a couple pieces to this and bring it out wider, and then I would go across. But you might have to experiment with it. For this video, I'm just showing you basically how to make a 40 wide by 16 inch drop. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this. There we have it, made, believe it or not. That's what that's going to look like. Now you may be thinking that this is the drop, but this is not the drop. This is actually the top of it. And when we sew it, we're going to be sewing or hitting a pocket this way. And then what happens is this all comes up like that. And that's what causes the actual swag. Very similar to the shirt swag. And actually you can use a shirt swag pattern if you've made one, because it works for both. So, now we're going to add our lining. Now linings, it all depends on what you want to use for a lining. You leave that up to you. But I've just cut a piece that's going to contrast. And keep in mind, these colors might not match exactly, but I'm doing this for your benefit, not so much for mine. This is just pieces of scrap fabric that I had left over. So I just wanted to show you how to do this. And again, this is cut pretty much the same 36 inches by full width. I think the width on this fabric is just a little wider. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my fabric, I'm putting it face down. So this is the face of the contrast fabric. This is the face of my face fabric. So we're going to put one right on top of the other. Now this is a really easy valance if you're just learning how to sew. This is a good one to get your feet wet with, because it's not long, it's nothing that you have to be perfect with. Then I'm just going to take some pins. I'm going to stick some pins in it, I'm going to cut it, and then we're just going to sew it. All the way around. And yes, I pin a little differently. A lot of people put pins in this way. I prefer putting them so the points go like so. Now, I'm going to sew all the way around this. I'm going to cut this out. And then I'm going to sew all the way around. And I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. And when you sew, you have to leave an opening. The opening so you can pull it through to the fabric. Now where are you going to do that? It really doesn't matter, per se. Where am I going to do it? I'm going to pick a spot someplace between here and here. About that much right here. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So I'm just going to sew all the way around except for that area right there. Enough that I can get my hand in and I can pull the material out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew that up. Using a 1/2 inch, and I'll be right back. Okay, now I've got this all sewn all the way around it. As promised, I left an opening about here. Now there's two little tricks I'm going to do on these corners right here where I've sewed it. And as I said, I did a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I'm just going to do a little trimming right here. And all that does is when I pull the material out, it's just going to help me you'll see, when I actually pull it, I just don't want this all bunching in those corners, because there's an actual corner right here. So I want to cut away just a little bit of that. So when I turn it, it's going to help me pull that little bit of extra material out, because there's not going to be as much now. And the second thing I'm going to do around this corner right here, this is kind of a fast corner. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip it. Now make sure you're not snipping into your sewing allowance. And this is just going to help ease the material for when you press it. And that's all we need, just a little bit on each side. The next thing to do is to turn it. Onto the correct side. And what's nice about this, if you do contrast them and you're doing like 3 swags, you can put all 3 using this face, or you can do 2 swags out of this showing and then flip it and have 1 out of the contrast. So there's a lot of options. And if you don't want to do that, because of sometimes this might be facing in front of your house, so you might want to have it all white instead of having something contrast. Next thing you might want to consider, another reason why you may not want to put a contrast on the back, is because it's going to fade quicker. Lining being a white color does not fade as much. Now in these corners, like I said, you're going to need a pin or something to help get this out. You can also use a little tool that looks like this and go up into it and stick it in there and pull it out if you need to. So anyhow, I'm going to pull this out, the rest of this out, and then we're going to show you how to press it real quick. Be right back. Okay, now we're ready to press this whole swag. And the one thing you notice, I did not close this up yet, because when I press it, I can press in my sewing allowance at the same time, and it'll just make it easier for closing it up. I'm going to start with the bottom of it. The bottom of the swag is the flat part. You want to make sure that you reach in and you grab that material and try to get it as close to the edge of the other material as you can. So you really want to come in here, pull it out with your fingers. It helps if you have fingernails. I don't have fingernails, so that's why women are so much faster at this. You should see some of the women in here that boom, 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 and they have it. And when you're used to doing it a lot, it's helpful. I like to start with the bottom, because if there's any extra fabrics, I can always feed it into the pocket if I have to. So I like to start with the bottom first. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'm just going to press it up to here so you can see how I did that. And then we'll move on. You don't need to watch me press this whole thing out. And you can see I pulled all that material out of those corners. Now even though I closed this whole thing up, after I sew my pocket, my heading and pocket, I'm going to open up a spot for my pocket. But for now I just close it all up. So this is the side that has the opening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press right to the opening, and I'm going to go on the other side. And I'm going to press this. And that's going to help me connect the dots with how much I have to fold in here on both. And you know it's approximately a 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's where the opening is. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to stick a couple of pins in there. I'm going to continue sewing or continue pressing around it. Then I'll take it over to the sewing machine and I'm just going to put a little top stitch right here. Just enough to hold it, and you're not really going to see it because this is the part that's the actual heading. So that's why I didn't do it on the bottom. I wanted to do it, and I also didn't want to do it around the corner here where it's harder or more obvious. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to press the whole thing, then we're going to go back to the sewing machine, and we're going to put the heading and pocket in. Alright, so we're at the sewing machine. If you can see that alright. Get that where you can see it the best. Okay, this is the spot right here that we need to close up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to make sure that these are even. Put this underneath my foot. Now, just a little note here. At this point, since I'm using two different colors, you can use, say, depending on the colors you're having, but you'd want for the for your sewing machine to have this fabric or this thread on the top that would match, but on the bottom you would want something a little bit closer to this on your bobbin. So you would want to use something that's a little darker, especially when it comes to when you put your heading and pocket in, especially. If you plan on flipping this around. So that's something that you have to realize that you have to do. Don't use the same thread if you on the bobbin as you are on your machine if you're using two different colors. Having said that, we're going to go ahead and give this a stitch down. Just enough to catch both fabrics. There we have it. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our heading in. On this particular one, we're going to put an 1.5 inch heading. And as I previously stated, the straight part is the bottom and the curved part is the actual top. And I'm going to be doing an 1.5 inch pocket and an 1.5 inch heading. So what I'd like to do is take a little ruler such as this. My first stitch is at 1.5 inches, and I always like to deal with putting the heading in first because it's closest to the edge and it'll hold the material better. And then I put my pocket in. So what I'm going to do at my needle is I'm going to, right where my needle comes down, I'm going to put my ruler at 1.5 inches, and then I'm using a magnet. And magnets do stick to most of your sewing machines, your home sewing machines also, on the metal part. So I'm assuming you won't have too much of a problem with that. So there's my 1.5 inches. Now all I'm just going to do is come here, stitch it a little top, and then I'm just going to go all the way around here. Alright, that finishes up the heading. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to sew the pocket in. Okay, with our heading in, now we're going to put our pocket. So we're going to do the same thing as we're going to come with this over 3 inches now. And that's what we're using for our guide. So we're going to put that at 3 inches. Like so. Then you can see what I'm doing with the magnet right there. I'm just using that magnet as a little fence. Now if you wanted to, you could stick some pins in here to hold it. I'm not going to. Okay, pocket is in. The last thing you have to do before you put it on your rod is open this up on both sides. There's your heading where you don't have to open anything up, but right in here you have to open up. There's several ways you do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to kind of like stab it and then clip it. I can just like this. And that's what's going to open up mine right in here. But you can do however you want to do it. That's just how I get mine. And voila, it's open. Now at this point, if you want to, you can put it through your machine again and just stitch this right here and then stitch down. It's not necessary, but if you want a cleaner finish, you can do that. So now let's go put it on our rod. 1/2, and I prefer using the wider half. And we're going to stick it in. We're going to bring this all the way around. Like so. Put on our end. Then what you want to do is you want to play with these. You can actually form pleats with this. You're just going to have to take some time to play with it, getting your heading just right. Let's see what we have for a size here. That would be 40. That's pretty much so what this would look like, just like that. Now this, if you get 15 or 16, it would be from the top of this down. Like I said, you can play with this and get this really nice looking. So I got about 15 inches from the top of the heading down, roughly. And then if you wanted to, you could add as many as you want. And also the farther you come out, of course the skimpier it gets, but also you can see that the drop becomes less the more you pull it in. But typically about 40 inches on this particular one. And like I say, you can sit there and you can get these nice. It just takes a little time. That's how you make a rod pocket swag. Fairly simple. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.